Startups get the party, startups get the party started. Startups get the party, startups get the party started. You want tech and tacos, tacos and tech, you know we got tacos and tech is on smash. Border green, guacamole, keep accountants counting beans. Contador cuentan frijoles, founders trying to raise some queso. La vida San Diego, school of rappy, rapping fire. Tortillas round jalapenos. In these modern times of craft beer and coffee, my coding yoga posse, fold the body, origami. We be surfing Coronado, eating tacos.
And welcome back to the Tacos and Tech podcast. I'm your host, Neil Bloom. I've gone on a long time ecosystem friend here, Eric Weiss, the founder, executive coach, and really, founder whisperer through chaos to clarity, as well as president of San Diego Design Week. And he's also the vice chair of Startup San Diego. Eric, thanks so much for being on the pod. And also thanks so much for helping build this community that we're all a part of.
Likewise, man. I mean, great to see you as always. We go way back. Yeah, I mean, as a fellow ecosystem builder, I mean, I feel like, we could fill up this podcast pretty quickly.
We can. We did it on yours, maybe 6 months ago-ish, which was fun. Maybe we just need like a semi-regular spot where we just like chop it up on the state of the ecosystem.
Yes, co-host. I like that.
But we go way back to what I think is kind of the founding cradle of the startup ecosystem, EvoNexus, when it was a community platform, not just an incubator, I would say. I moved to San Diego because of my startup portfolio and getting into EvoNexus in 2013. Were you already in it, or when was that right around?
Yeah. So we were in the program. We had graduated. Sure. When I met you, we had graduated from Evo and moved up to the co-working space upstairs, the Vine.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
The post Evo, same building, but pretty much everyone moved there at some point.
Part of the startup campus, if you will.
Yeah, the vertical campus that was 101 Broadway, which really was the hub, which birthed San Diego Startup Week, and then birthed Startup San Diego, kind of around that, and many, many other things. So we're going to talk about that a bit. But first, just want to know, how did you find your way to 101 Broadway? Like, where did it all start from like tech path for you, Eric?
Yeah. I mean, I've been a hacker and a developer my entire life. I mean, I was, ripping apart electronics as a little kid and learned to code at 9 and, that whole thing. Became a bit of a black hat hacker in my adolescence, gotten not a little bit of trouble, a decent amount. But, of course, saw the errors of my ways and reformed and all that. Came out here. Actually, I came to San Diego on the way to the Bay Area to do the whole startup thing. I actually just came to San Diego for a summer just to kind of like have a San Diego summer before I went and did the startup grind, and I never left. And that was like over 20 years ago. I've been, I do a ton of work up in the Bay Area. I've interviewed at like a dozen jobs or more up in the Bay Area. And every time I look at the math, I look at the calculus, San Diego always wins. So here I am.
Yeah, it does. I mean, an hour flight to the Bay beats any drive anywhere else. That's for sure, honestly. And you're just like plopped right into the middle of the Bay, just like San Diego. You start off right in the middle of San Diego from the airport there. So yeah, like live here, work there. Totally has worked. You've been building some really good relationships over there as well too. I know you've really I feel like you've shepherded people down here to get them to plant roots here. A friend, Brad Corona, and others, right? Like, take us through, how you've taken your role internally from startup builder to startup ecosystem builder. Like, what was that journey, and give us the why on that.
Yeah. I mean, so this started, I got to go way back to like 2006-ish, where the startup community was very, very nascent. There was a group called Startup Circle, which met at Mintz Levin, now Mintz, which is still, a pillar of our tech ecosystem. We're hosting a day of Startup Week there this year. I got plugged into Connect. I was a Springboard mentor early on. This was all while I was getting my MBA in entrepreneurship at San Diego State. So that plugged me into the startup scene. Started doing kind of management consulting on the side when I was working at Raytheon, and then at Sony, and then at Qualcomm. So I always had my kind of foot in two areas. I was in like big enterprise technology, And then, my role in startups was a lot of mentoring and consulting and advising and things like that. Getting equity and trying to help startups succeed, and really looking for that opportunity to like really dive in. And that came a lot later than I had expected. It didn't come until around like 2014, 2015 when I joined Rock My Run, which was an Evo Nexus startup. But I've always just had a love for helping entrepreneurs and being in that startup world. And again, San Diego just didn't have the critical mass in those days, and so I, again, kind of had my foot in both domains.
What was it? Take us through a little bit of like the big tech you worked on, and
Yeah.
more just because I'm always curious. Like, startups start as a little bit of like a disruption against the big, but
Hmm.
have to turn into the big a little bit,
Right.
right? They go through this transformation of like, oh, the big is the incumbency, but to be
Hmm.
successful is to also become the incumbent. Were you
Yep.
feeling
Yep.
that, like one foot in both worlds? And
It, it's
where did you feel like you lived?
Yeah, it's kind of hilarious that I worked in sort of big enterprise architecture and software and everything. And my enterprise company as well as clients as a consultant and a coach, they're always asking me, how do we be more like a startup? Help us be more innovative and agile and all that. And then working with the startups, it's all about, how do we scale? How can you bring that sort of big company rigor and expertise to help us scale up our startup? So yeah, absolutely, it's two sides of the same coin. But so my work at Raytheon, I worked on these integrated defense systems. So all the systems on these aircraft carriers that were integrating all of their sensors and communications and weapon systems and all that. So it was like really serious stuff. And so I actually got really into like Six Sigma. There's kind of this cult around Six Sigma process improvement and all that. And that became my like operations kind of engine or system that carried throughout my career. I got really sick of that. And then I went in the totally other direction when I worked at Sony. I worked on the PlayStation 3. So we were building the first network platform, the PlayStation Network platform, as well as all of their massively multiplayer online games, EverQuest and Star Wars Galaxies and all that fun stuff. So brought that same kind of operational rigor there, where it's like global distributed systems and constant hacking and security threats and all that. Then once that after the PlayStation 3 launched and the company kind of wobbled a bit, I moved to Qualcomm, where I got into data science, kind of early machine learning, predictive modeling, like large scale data engineering, basically connecting all of these like massive data sources across all of Qualcomm, and then being able to make predictions about where the industry is going to go and where they should be investing in R&D and that sort of thing. Got to sit in, Paul Jacobs' office and as his sort of personal data scientist for a while. So that was all, pretty exciting. And so then again, when I was mentoring and consulting and advising with startups, it was that, okay, how do we develop that rigor, that operational rigor, to help us scale up?
Amazing. Seen some few different industries.
Yeah.
Some who've never been, I feel like Raytheon may have never been a startup for as much as it
Yeah.
feels like. But Qualcomm definitely had startup roots and
Mhm.
definitely always has said like, has had to kind of like reinvent itself at different times. I'm sure that's going through again in this new AI revolution.
Yeah.
But pretty interesting. What I don't actually know the path to Rock My Run. Where did you end up there?
Yeah. So the founder and I were really good friends. We went to grad school together. We worked at Qualcomm together.
Oh, right. The
And
Qualcomm.
so, he jumped off to found the company. I was an early advisor, sort of technology advisor. And once they raised a little bit of angel money, it was enough to get me to break those golden handcuffs and jump in.
I love it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there were actually in that year, there was a few Qualcomm spinouts, House Call Pro, all
Yep.
former Qualcommers,
Very
you
good friends of mine
guys,
as well. Yeah.
even I think Josh Komenda, maybe from Veo, also, I think, a
Hmm.
former Qualcommer too. So yeah, there was like an interesting 2012, 13, 14, like Qualcomm spinouts that I wouldn't even say spinouts. They're just former employees that started new stuff, and Evo Nexus became that home for many.
So interesting. Like that was a period where, Qualcomm had hit its peak and had started doing rounds of layoffs. And we would always joke that every time Qualcomm does a layoff, 100 new startups are formed,
Mhm.
which, kind of a good thing and bad thing, but it means like tongue in cheek that, there's so much capacity that's locked up in these, in these big institutions with these big handcuffs. So, yeah, you see it as a blessing, right? That folks get a little bit of a
Mhm.
parachute and, so I actually even volunteered to be laid off. There was a round of layoffs, and I had this this thing going on the side, and I actually was able to save somebody's job because I said, "Hey, please
Mhm.
lay me off, give me the severance. I'm going to go do this startup thing," and again saved somebody who wanted to stay. So
True.
yeah,
Wow. What's fortunate for us, for sure.
yeah,
They say, like in macroeconomic downturns, that's when some of the most disruptive startups are born, right? And even in a local lens, big enterprise company in San Diego laying off, that is its own like microeconomic event.
yeah.
I just heard that Google had some layoffs,
Mhm.
on their wearables side
Mhm.
that are, I think this was all the Fitbit, a lot of the Fitbit people who
Yep.
work at Google San Diego. It's like 70 plus people that are looking for something that would love to find a San Diego spot, right? Like
Mhm.
70 engineers is actually pretty big for the tech San Diego community. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's one thing to say I want to go work on something disruptive in technology. It's another thing to say I want to build the connective tissue and the ecosystem around it to help those companies be successful. You're
Yeah.
doing a lot of times you've been doing it at the same time. Like, what's that
Yeah.
like? And how do you step up and lead while also doing the thing? Because that's
Hmm.
a hard part of ecosystem building.
Yeah. It's wild. I like ask when people ask me at a networking event what I do, it is the hardest question for me to answer because it is not one thing. I like to joke that I'm a parallel entrepreneur instead of a serial entrepreneur. But I like variety. I like to be involved in a lot of different things. And I'm just passionate about community building. I honestly say like there's no reason for it. It's just in my DNA. I will say that like I used to be a musician. I used to be a DJ, so I used to throw events and throw parties like all through high school and college and everything, big warehouse raves and all that stuff. And so getting people together and seeing just like the vibrancy of community is something that not only I love, but I just have a natural gift for. And so it's sort of like I always tend to fall into leadership vacuums. So when there is a community that sort of needs that support and needs that, a lot of times it's also just the consistency and kind of a little bit of like execution or operational rigor just to kind of keep it going. Um, I will often fall into it. You mentioned start design week. I kind of tangentially was curious about this thing that was happening in my world, but a little off to the side. And I said, oh, I want to get involved in that. And I went from being a volunteer to a board member to the vice president to the president within about 6 months. Just because the way that the board had turned over, there was this leadership vacuum. And it was like, I'm not even a designer, but if I don't do this, it seems like nobody else is going to do it. So screw it. Let's do it. Let's jump in. And I'm actually in my fourth year leading design week now. So it's pretty exciting.
Wow. So the
Yeah.
design world, I feel like, has always been like really parallel to the startup world. Like
Hmm.
there's like we like touch at times. I think it was 2016 Startup Week on the Broadway Pier where we actually hosted the very first design something by the
Design
newly
Forward
formed.
Summit.
Yeah, Design Forward Summit. I think kind of kicked
Yeah.
off at Startup Week, together. But we always feel like we're like two ships traveling together and never really aligned. Tell me
Yeah.
more about like design thinking versus, and I've had Don Norman on the pod, by the way.
Yeah.
What's the opportunity here to actually like have design and startups thinking alike and doing more together in each other's ecosystem?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I sit on both boards. And so I'm trying to do this kind of all the time. But yeah, no, I mean that is the inception. So Design Forward Alliance is the organization that I'm the president of, that's the organizer of San Diego Design Week, was founded in 2016. when this Design Forward Summit happened at Startup Week. And that was a coming together of, Don Norman, who founded the Design Lab at UCSD, and, all the other sort of pillars of industry to say, hey, we've got this really strong design, economy here in San Diego. How do we really put it on the world map? And there were a few things that sort of came out of that, but the ones that really stuck were San Diego Design Week and the World Design Capital, which is a kind of global distinction. You kind of think of it as like the World Cup or the Olympics of design. Every couple of years, there's a country that gets this distinct, or a city that gets this distinction. And it was a 5-year process to put the bid together. I mean, it was like all the institutions, the city, the big foundations, Prebis and Burnham and all that, and did this huge like study and put together this bid, and we won. It was actually San Diego and Tijuana as sister cities. So it's the first American city. We are the one and only American city to ever be World Design Capital, and the first binational region to be World Design Capital. So it took 5 years in the making. And again, kind of like I saw this happening because I was involved in the design world as just a part of being a product leader. And when I started seeing this happen, I said, this is really cool. I want to be a part of this. They just pulled me in and said, all right, come on, come volunteer, come join the board. And then that was the year where like a lot of people had kind of burned out because they'd spent 5 years getting the thing that they had to pass the torch. So I took the torch and stepped in as president during the year of the World Design Capital, which was bonkers. We also took Design Week over from the Mingei Museum in Balboa Park. So they were one of the partners. They founded Design Week in 2020, which was a wild time to, kick off a new conference. So through the whole pandemic, right? It was that weird like hybrid stage, 2021, 22. And then 23, we took a year off because we had to kind of prepare for the World Design Capital. And so like we were pretty much doing this all from scratch. It was the first like in-person year, all in person. It was the first year that the Design Forward Alliance was really leading it. And it was also a part of this huge World Design Capital thing. So it was bonkers. But so when I was asked to kind of step in, I was like, well, I'm an operator, I'm an executor, I'm a project manager, like I'm a startup leader, like let's just go, let's do this. And so, we're designers are more creative and I don't know, a little bit mercurial. I was able to just say, all right, let's herd these cats, let's wrangle this thing and get it done.
Amazing.
So
yeah. What I love about Design Week, and I've been to a pretty minimal amount of events, to be honest, but here and there I'll pop in.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a stage of company agnostic, which is cool,
Mm-hmm.
right? You'll have
Mm-hmm.
just as much, Qualcomm and an Intuit hosting events as, someone radical at the startup level or the kind of agency side, which has got a deep roots in San Diego, kind of the UX design, agency community here. I think of Chet Robley and some of these others, right? And Chuck Loganecker, who some are like big thought leaders and operators locally. What do you look at when you see kind of like what's the full reach of design in San Diego?
Yeah. Well, so that is the that's the birthplace. So the digital product, UI, UX design, sort of that's again the tech side that I came in from, was sort of launched this thing. And so when 2024 World Design Capital finished, 2025, all of that like big grant money went away, and it was like, okay, now what? That was just this big question. Now what? Okay, we finished this thing. What does the what does the legacy look like? And so we had to go back to grassroots, right? Again, a lot of the funding dried up. This was also when our new president stepped in, and essentially all of the funding for arts and culture evaporated overnight. The institutions lost their funding, and anyone who didn't lose their funding, everyone tightened the purse strings because they just didn't know what the heck was going to happen. And so we pretty much, I think our budget for 2025 was 1/10 of the budget of 2024. So again, as a sort of a startup guy, I had to just say, all right, we have got to go back to absolutely square one. We're a startup again. We need to figure out how to do this purely with like volunteers and in kind support. So 2025 was definitely like a transitional year of like, can we pull this off, make it sustainable? But what I had noticed when I was sitting at Design Week that year was like kind of how corporate it felt. Like it really was a lot of the professional, like large corporations and very digital kind of heavy. And I was getting we were having a bunch of people showing up saying like, this is not at all what I expected Design Week to be. Like when I think of design, I think of interior design and architecture and fashion design and so on. And like, where is all that? And I was like, you're absolutely right. Where is all that? And it's because that was who we were as an organization. That was our board. So I said, okay, my mission now is to have the broadest representation of design possible. And so I went and did a whole new recruitment drive. And now we have a fashion designer on our board. We have an architect. We have a landscape designer. We have, multimedia design and all these different facets of it. And so this year we have all new tracks. And the goal is to really make it much more accessible, much more like family friendly and sort of available to the public. And it's less about professional designers teaching each other how to be better professionals and more about how do we teach San Diego about design in all of its forms. So I'm actually like more excited about it this year than I've ever been. I mean, it's going to be a ton of fun.
Well, let's talk about it more then. Like,
Yeah.
when is it? And what does, this year look like?
So it's September 15th to the 20th. And it's all over, but we've got some just pretty amazing things happening. So the first thing is there is this massive project called the Arts and Design District downtown. So there's something called the Downtown Partnership. It's being led by the Prebys Foundation and a bunch of other just important folks in the city and in philanthropy, as well as like the land developers. And they basically have sort of bought up a 10 square block area of downtown near Horton Plaza to the Civic Center. And all of this sort of empty office space that's really cleared out since COVID. And they want to revitalize it and turn it into an arts and design district. And so we said, the kind of the initial story was like, well, in 5 to 10 years, this is going to be amazing. And then you guys can come and do all, work here and live here and everything. And I was like, well, why don't we just do it now? Like, why we're designers. We're used to being in the mess. Like, let's just get in the mess and when it's a work in progress, and then we can even help shape what it's going to be. So this year we're actually launching this partnership with the Arts and Design District. The hub is down at 401 B Street, so like the Wells Fargo building, kind of right in the epicenter there. And it's just like a bunch of like empty office space that we can just do whatever we want with, and it's going to be a real sort of work in progress. Um, on top of that, we have like real pillars of the community. We've got the Museum of Contemporary Art in San Diego is hosting a full day of fashion and costume design that we're putting on. That is going to be, just amazing, right? Bringing in fashion is like fashion design is actually not a big thing here, not as big as it used to be. And our board member who's in that space just has some really big ideas and is going to bring some cool stuff to the MCASD. We have like the La Jolla Playhouse, who's going to open their doors and show us all of the costumes that they've designed for all the various plays and kind of talk about the business of costume design. We have Adobe coming in as a title sponsor this year. They're putting on, multiple workshops and a huge sort of capstone event. And so they're kind of plugging into, teaching folks about graphic design. Gosh, I mean, there's so much, yeah, that I
Yeah.
can keep going on, but it's going to be
No, I
exciting.
love the layered approach to it too. And I know it's been happening this way for a while. I think Tech Week has popularized, kind of the community calendar.
Yeah,
But this kind of sounds similar, right? It's not just some conference at one place. It is go immerse yourself and go be where the designers are, not the other
yep,
way around, where, bring the
exactly.
conference, make everyone come to you. That's so cool. And I know back in the early startup weekdays, everything was downtown. So you actually would just like
Mhm.
walk the streets, seeing people with all throughout downtown with their tags. A little harder in the design world when it's all over
Yeah.
San Diego, but still just to be able to look on a map and say, whoa, look at the how the broad the design community is here,
Mhm.
is pretty cool. So thanks for championing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, people always ask me, right? Like, why do you do this? Like, what, you're not a designer. Like, how got all these other things going on? Why this? Because it's just freaking cool. It's so cool. It's so fun. Like, it's exciting. It's creative. I mean, it just gets all the juices flowing. And so, yeah, it's one of those things where there was a leadership vacuum. There was a thing that I just realized needed to exist. And at least at the time, there was nobody to take the torch. So I said, okay, fine, I'll take it. And until I, find somebody else to take the torch from me, I'm going to continue to, yeah, give a part of myself to it.
I totally appreciate that. I think the whole community does, whether they're saying it or not, because kind
Yeah.
of keeping connective tissue or even creating it is a really, really big thing. I'm under the opinion that we've lost some connective tissue
Yeah.
post-COVID. Even I think we were even losing it in the startup world before COVID without having that physical
Mhm.
space that really built trust in all of us, you know?
Mhm.
What's your kind of take now that you're, helping lead Startup San Diego as well, and you're seeing a different world, you're being able to like A/B test, design
Yeah.
startup. Like, where do you
Yeah.
think the startup community is locally?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you absolutely hit the nail on the head. I mean, being a part of that moment in time when we had that startup campus, there was just so much that happened effortlessly. There was so much that happened sort of naturally just by having all of the right people in the building, right? The fact that there was a space where you could host networking events, and whether you were a brand new incubated startup in Evo versus, somebody who had scaled up like Portfolium, right? Everybody's in the same place, and those connections are made, and you don't have to do it like on purpose. It doesn't take work. So that's actually why I'm so excited about this arts and design district. It's downtown, and yes, a lot of people have moved up to North County, and we have to kind of reconcile that. But I believe that's why I want to invest in this, because if we can build that district again downtown and have that just natural third space where everybody already is, it's just gonna, it creates economies of scale. So from a startup perspective, yeah, we're struggling with that. You and I have even, talked about this online, is that need to create these hubs, these third spaces that aren't just co-working spaces, right? But they're third spaces where people naturally want to go. Like, where's the watering hole? And it's gotten so dispersed. I mean, San Diego's a huge county, and we've got clusters up in Carlsbad and downtown, and even down in Chula Vista and over in Rancho Bernardo, and it's really hard to get people to travel. Traffic sucks in the city.
Mhm.
And so it needs to be a kind of a thing where people are like already there. And then, oh, there's some networking, or, oh, there's some opportunity for people to connect. And I think we just have to be able to build that while understanding the economics of real estate, which is
Mhm.
really hard.
It is really hard. The
Mhm.
economics of real estate generally don't have the same kind of timelines that startups do.
Yeah.
Um, but I think also one thing we often overlook from the glory days, if you will, was that it was professionally community managed, and it was
Yes.
Evo Nexus that was footing the bill for two community managers, Michelle
Hmm.
and Kristen, who
Yes.
really were that like glue, honestly,
Hmm.
right? I think a lot of us took it for granted that like, oh, just things just happen. It's like, they planned a meetup to happen every night and
Yep.
sometimes every morning so that the random traffic would pass by our desk, right?
Yeah. That's a good point.
But that was
I mean,
that was level 2.0,
even
that
Michelle,
was
yeah, I remember Michelle even like making sure that we'd get fed. There was like a vulture mailing list, that,
totally,
hey, there was an event on the second floor, come eat it. And then all these, starving startup people eating their ramen would go downstairs, and that's how we would
totally.
get the fuel to push through. But yeah, no,
Yep.
there really needs to be, and again, from at least from a design perspective, I'm hoping that these foundations like Prebis and even the city will support some of this. But yeah, the subsidized real estate, the ability to get all these people in a space together, um, is unfortunate. I think a critical part of the equation, but it's the idea that, hey, they're investing in their future tenants. right? Because if these startups never get off the ground, then they're never going to need a floor of office space, or they're just going to go fully remote, and then they're always going to be fully remote. And so I think there is a vested interest there. But then you got folks, we got to shout out our mutual friend Ryan Cooter, who is trying to do this up in Encinitas with Founders and Co. Day one, I was like, I'm in, whatever it takes. I don't even live in Encinitas. I just need this to exist. But he's right now he's trying to close on the office space and create that founder lounge, that third space, up in North County.
Totally. Same. Yeah. I mean, I think it's the community management professionally that he is building. The space will be the tool where those happen, but he has already proved that he's able to capture people together, whether it's in his courtyard,
Yeah.
or online or in other ways. Like that's what we need. We need more curated, uh, purposeful bumping intos of the right people at the right time. And it's great that's happening.
And on that note as well, right? We got, Falon Reeson and Ping Wang with Ansir, doing the similar kind of thing, right? They're kind of focusing on the AI and deep tech space. You've got Aquilius out in, Forest Ranch in the life science and med tech space. So there's a few folks that are creating these kind of hub and third spaces, and we need more of it. We need every
Yeah.
single industry represented. We need every neighborhood. We just need to be able to meet together. So that's it.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of what I kind of do with my free time or my subsidized time from the work that I do, coaching founders um, is helping kind of spawn these communities, right? I have kind of a playbook. I find somebody with a vested interest in the space and I say, okay, here's how you can do this, keep it consistent, right? And kind of coach and train people on how to spawn communities. So I've done it in the med tech space, I've done it in the VC space, SaaS as well. And it's just something where you just got to find somebody who like naturally has a vested interest in the thing existing. And then there's just a lightweight amount of consistent effort that needs to happen. So.
Yeah. No, I think the consistency part is big. It builds trust. The people are like, oh, this is not just gonna be a one-time thing. I'll
Yeah.
take this seriously and I'll make sure I make good relationships. And then when I come back, I'll work and tend to those relationships. So I think that's
Yes,
really important, the consistency piece there. So thanks for doing
exactly.
that. What have you learned from from Design Week that we can
Yeah.
kind of look and foreshadow into Startup Week coming up in
Yeah.
November that you think will
Yeah.
be different and new this year?
It's representation. Again, I'm a tech guy. I'm a SaaS guy. I'm a software AI, big tech guy, and that's just always been my kind of mindset. But what I realize is that, San Diego, especially from a startup and entrepreneurship perspective, is a lot more than that. We have CPG, we have, physical products, we have, goods for the home and things like that. We have surfboard shapers and wetsuit makers and you name it. There's a lot of other businesses that aren't purely tech businesses that I think we need to do a better job of representing. Again, similar in Design Week, like as soon as we opened our eyes and said, "Oh my God, design is not just digital and UX; it's fashion, interior, and architecture, and all that." All of a sudden, we got more volunteers, we got more eyeballs, people interested in coming to our events. We got more sponsorship dollars, and so the same thing I think from the startup week side is like I think we need to kind of reckon with what it means to be an entrepreneur and be a startup in San Diego. And it's not just copying the Bay Area.
I totally agree. Uh, do you think our design innovation, mapping has helped
Mhm.
uncover more and more of people who maybe don't even know they call themselves a startup or startup thinking, but
Yeah.
have the kind of the same like disruptive mentality?
Yeah. Uh, that's a tough one. I mean, again, as somebody who like I spend most of my work in the Bay Area and in New York, the bar for disruption and innovation is very, very high. I would say like my opinion on the strength of the San Diego ecosystem, certainly from a tech side, is actually much more in the deep tech and the hardware and the life science space, and less of the kind of hot, sexy, internet startup.
Hmm.
Now, those things are very disruptive. They just take a long time, right? Developing a medical device, developing a piece of defense tech or a drone or submersible or whatever it is. We have some incredible technology being built here, but it's just a much longer timeline. And so it doesn't get the same recognition, I think, as being disruptive. But it's there. They're just a lot quieter about it, I think, than the folks up in
Yeah,
the
I
Bay
think
Area.
you're right. And right now, the Bay Area has completely sucked up all the oxygen around AI,
Yes.
anything related to it. I mean, I think it's on a pretty regular basis, it's 60 to 65% of all venture capital is now Bay Area company
Hmm.
headquarter
Hmm.
related. And those people are back in person in SF.
Yeah.
I'm hearing again, San Diego, not again, maybe for the first time, San Diego founders who are here saying my hardware team's in San Diego, my software AI team is in the Bay. And that's the only
Yeah.
way it has to be, right? And I don't know. I don't think we had such bifurcation in the past. It was
Yeah.
kind of like, my team's in the SF, me, the CEO, might be living here and splitting time. No, this is like AI team has to be up in the Bay.
Yeah.
And that's not just a San Diego problem. That's a worldwide like talent density thing because this is the moment of stepwise change.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? What's that going to do for an ecosystem like us?
I mean, I hate to say again, as a software guy, we have really struggled to be competitive in that space since the very beginning. I mean, like I said, the thing that's been drawn me to the Bay Area all these years is because I'm a software engineer. It's just, who I've always been, and I've been sort of fighting against that. But, coming out of companies like Qualcomm, coming out of the defense companies, the big, biotech and life science companies here, there is so much talent density here around hardware and deep tech that it's formidable, And so I think we just again need to reconcile with who we are and what our strengths are and not try to compete head to head with them. I mean, the great thing, kind of what you're saying, the other side of it is like, well, isn't that great that this Bay Area company, has a hardware team in San Diego as opposed to, the other way around? They could just as easily, just relocate and have everything up there. But there is something to be said about the caliber of hardware and deep tech here in San Diego.
Yep.
I think on a more broad sense, though, because again, I spent a lot of time going back and forth. A lot of my best friends actually left San Diego after grad school and moved to the Bay Area. So we're always hanging out and having dinner and drinking and like talking about the differences between the two cities. From a ecosystem perspective, because I also, by the way, do some ecosystem building up there as well. I run a chapter of an organization here called VC Village. Yet another thing that I do, but there's a San Francisco chapter as well that we partner with. So I go up there a lot and talk with the investors up there about the differences between San Francisco and San Diego. And the two things that I kind of came home with about the strengths, I think, of San Diego. One is that by being smaller, um, our network is tighter. It's much easier to navigate the network and connect with the people you need to connect with here versus up there. Because, I go up to networking events up there and a lot of folks are saying like, I don't really know, like, I don't know anybody here. I don't know, like no one's in my industry. There's so much going on that it actually is harder to navigate and connect to the right people. So I think that density of the network is actually something that's a strength of ours. And then I think the other is the constraint, the lack of capital and the lack of available talent and so on means that it's shaking out the imposters here. So if you're a serious startup founder, you can build in San Diego and you're going to get the attention of the investors and you're going to attract the talent. Whereas up there, it's a ton of noise. Like all the grifters and all the imposters, in addition to all the superstars and the geniuses, are all up there fighting for the same capital and the same talent and everything. And again, if you're down here, if you're not serious, yeah, you're going to wash out. But if you are serious, everyone else is washed out and you can kind of, you can stand tall.
That's a good way of saying it. I like
Yeah.
that.
It's
I
like
think
David and Goliath.
it is a little Day and Goliath, but I think, in the Bay, it's also a little bit more like everyone just judges you right up front, like where do you work?
Hmm.
definitely talks about that. Where
Yeah.
here we almost are the complete opposite. We don't even share. We don't even ask someone where they work. They're just like, oh, my neighbor's that's Tom, my kid's coach, my kid's
Yeah.
softball coach. And only 2 years into it realize, oh my God, they're like the VC from that living here, but based in the Bay, right? It's
There's
almost
a
to our
lot of sleepers here. Yeah.
almost to our detriment that we forget to ask people, what are you working on?
Yeah.
Because we don't want to like upset the lifestyle piece. Because once you're, I feel like on the Bay Area escalator, you gotta like escalate. You gotta go up. You
Hmm.
gotta just
Hmm.
start judging. Like, are you a winner or stuff like that? Are you on the up? And I got to attach myself to the people going up. So I
Yeah.
think that part is like we're almost like avoiding doing that here.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, yeah, if that mindset is, are you worth my time? Is it worth it for me to invest in you? Well, that
Yeah.
depends on who you are. Versus here, it's more about like, well, do you make my life better? Like, do I enjoy spending time with you? That's the lifestyle piece.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I find the more I am the investor, the more that I have to live two different worlds because my investment world is, do I write you a check? Which is,
Mm-hmm.
are you a winner? Right? To a certain
Hmm.
regard,
Yeah.
which means I have to get quickly to a no to many people so I can go find more yeses, right?
Yeah.
Which so the investor part is tough here, I feel like, because to be authentic is to be a yes or no to many people at some point. But it doesn't
Yeah.
mean one, it doesn't mean no forever. It also doesn't mean I don't like you or I don't want
Right.
to spend time with you. It's like you just don't make the four corners of this thing called a fund, right? But that doesn't necessarily define me. That's just what
Mhm.
defines my professional role right now. So I find that part to be tougher and tougher to just like be the community guy is like I'm also the picker,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is now I'm starting to understand why VCs who live in San Diego like tend to disappear in San Diego.
Yeah. 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 I get
Because
it.
you want to like spend time with people, like there's people I really like that I'm just like this isn't a fit and that shouldn't define our relationship.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And again,
Yep.
you don't want to be judging them, and you also don't want to be asked for money all the time. You want to
Correct.
just have a friendship. No, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think we're doing the right things, right? We're having the right people together. We're making authentic relationships and picking the people we want to be around. Like that's life, right? Like we don't have time to do things with people we don't want to do with. And
Yeah.
I think San Diego forces that, like, you know, pick the time because we could all just go do the things we want to do, which is be with our families out in the sunshine.
Yep.
You could see my face. I just did it
Yeah.
big time this weekend. And so but getting to work with the people you like is what it's all about. And thanks to you, Eric, you're, helping connect that tissue to the people to find more people that you may like, whether it's in the design world, the
Mhm.
startup world, or everything in between as those webs hopefully continue to connect. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I do know one thing we all love to do here is eat tacos. That's for sure.
Yep.
We may not like each other's taco spots as much as our own because we all got our own special taco spot, but we will always try another taco place. Where do you go? Where do you take your people? Or maybe you don't share it. Maybe you've got a secret spot that you don't take everyone to.
I do have a secret spot. I would say my daily go-to is City Tacos. I mean, I live in Bird Rock. There's a lot of great taco shops in town. But there's a City Tacos right next to Crystal Pier. That's just my kind of daily go-to. I know it's not the most authentic, Rigoberto's type place, and I got a few of those too. There's a taqueria on Cass. It's really good. But my sleeper pick is actually called Charlie's Landing. You heard of it?
Ooh, no.
That's a new
Love
one.
it.
So it's right across the street from SeaWorld. It's on Dana Landing, so it's like tucked away. So if you're going south on Ingram, right before you get to Sunset Cliffs, there's that turnoff. There's like a hard right, and you're getting into this marina. So it's basically this place just for like boat people. And it started off as like a smash burger place, and they have incredible smash burgers. But they make, in my opinion, the best Baja fish taco in town. It is on point. It's incredible. I also do actually know the owners. So the owners kid went to school with my daughter, so that's how I kind of got plugged into it. And so when we would have like basketball games for the kids and stuff, we'd always go there afterwards. But you're sitting right on the water, right on the marina with all the boats right there. Um, Garibaldi floating in the water, seals popping their heads up now and again. and you can have incredible Baja fish tacos, smash burgers, and your beer of choice.
Oh, I love it. What a good sleeper. We won't overwhelm them too much, but there definitely will be some new traffic coming their way for sure.
Okay.
Uh, what's the right order there? What do you get? What's the go-to taco you get every time?
Yeah, I just get the Baja fish
Okay.
tacos. I get a couple of those. My kids usually get, share a smash burger.
A
And
smash
yeah,
burger and a taco. I love that. That's so
yeah.
awesome.
Favorite, and then your favorite, San Diego IPA of choice.
Of course. I'm just pulling up where it is. Okay, got it. It'll be a new addition to the Tacos and Tech podcast taco database, which we do
Nice.
keep up to date with entries. We've got entries from all over the world. I love that we're still adding new spots to here in San Diego. I think we even mapped it once. We even physically put a map together of all the pins. So we'll get that updated. But Eric, first of all, thanks for being on the pod, for joining my pod, which has been
Likewise.
great. And to what you're doing. Thank you. Hats off.
Thank you.
The community thanks you for your years of service that, really
Mhm.
is going to benefit us continuously down the road. So thanks again.
I appreciate it. And likewise, again, you're right there with me. And, I hope we just continue to work together to, make San Diego the best damn startup ecosystem on the planet.
Absolutely. Here's to that. Cheers, buddy. Thanks again.
Startups get the party,
Okay.
startups get the party started. You want tech and tacos, tacos and tech. You know we got tacos and tech is on smash for the green guacamole. Keep accountants counting beans, contador cuentan frijoles. Founders trying to raise some queso. La vida San Diego, school of rappy, rapping fire, tortillas round jalapenos. In these modern times of craft beer and coffee, my coding yoga posse fold the body origami. We be surfing Coronado, eating tacos el gordo. The taco stand in puesto, lucha libre and sombrero. Gotta shout out Tecos Daniels by the ocean, watch the sunset. The Hoya shores, entrepreneurs trying to get funded. When San Diego Startup Week is popping in the summer, Oceanside to Tijuana, SD be full of hustlers. From couch surfing to penthouses right on the beach. Tech leaders who believe stars are within reach. We interviewing founders who be shooting for the moon. Hashtag SD Techos with your host, Neil Bloom. Come on! Startups get the party, startups get the party started. Startups get the party, startups get the party started. Startups get the party, startups get the party started. You want tech and tacos, tacos and tech. You know we got it. Hey.